Hey, what's up? This is Jake from Chestnut, and welcome back to this another game in the Candidates 2026. It's the game between Javokhir Sindarov versus Andrey Esipenko. Let's try to see if we can understand and learn from the game. So in this game, we have Javokhir Sindarov playing white, while Andrey Esipenko playing black. D4 by Sindarov, D5 by Esipenko, C4, the Queen's Gambit, and we have the Queen's Gambit declined by Andrey Esipenko. Now, Javokhir continued to play knight f3, knight f6 by Andrey Esipenko, knight c3 for white, bishop e7, c takes d5, e takes c5, bishop e4, black castles, e3 for white, and c5 by Esipenko. Alright, the game continued with bishop d3 by white, simply developing the bishop here. And also knight c6 by black, white castles. And here we have Andrey Esipenko goes for the number one engine move, c4. He did not go to bishop g4, pinning the knight to the queen, nor taking the pawn on d4, but he goes for the number one engine move suggestion, which is c4, attacking the bishop. Bishop on d3, bishop goes to c2, knight h5, bishop e5, since the knight is threatening to capture the bishop on f4. So white's bishop goes to e5. Here f6 by black, attacks the bishop again, and no other choice but bishop goes to g3. And here we have black played f5. So black actually played f5, blocking its light square bishop, but also blocking the white's light square bishop as well, and opening its dark square bishop and the queen on this diagonal. Here, since f6 is no longer there, it goes to f5, so Sindarov decided to move his dark square bishop for 3 consecutive times, goes back to e5, and black replied with bishop e6, b3 by white, challenging this pawn chain here. Queen a5 attacks the knight. The knight goes to e2, b5 by black, supporting the pawn here. Knight e4 by Sindarov, knight takes knight, and e takes knight by Sindarov, and Andrey Esipenko played queen d8. Queen goes back to d8, since the queen is no longer useful here. She goes back to d8, and rook e1 by white, queen d7 by black, rook e3 by Sindarov. Actually, Sindarov was defending the c3 pawn and c3 square. He was probably afraid for the c3 push by black and having a passed pawn. If black does not take the b3 pawn, if black goes c3 and b4, then white could have some trouble defending that pawn chain. So rook e3 by Sindarov, defending the c3 square. Here, Andrey Esipenko played rook a e8, developing his rook on the a file. h4 by white, h6 by black, g3 by Sindarov, a6 by Esipenko, king g2, bishop f7, queen d2, and here we have bishop b4 attacks the queen, queen moves to e2, another bishop maneuver by Esipenko, bishop h5, pins the knight to the queen, and here we have a4, challenging this pawn here by Javokhir Sindarov. Bishop goes to a5. A takes b5. A takes b5. Here, bishop d1 by Sindarov. And Esipenko decided to just exchange his bishop for the white's knight. Bishop captures the knight on f3. Queen captures f3. And bishop b6. And here we have rook a6. So after this move here, white now has a little bit of advantage over black. But before that, I think it was here. Here in this position, black was better actually. But after black takes the knight on f3, captured back by the queen, bishop b6, rook a6. Now white is actually, oh, the engine favors white here. The game continued with knight takes on d4. Knight takes on d4. Attacks the queen here, so rook cannot take this bishop as his queen is under attack. Queen goes to h5. There is no other available square for queen to go to. h5, and this is dangerously closer to the black king. So, and here Esipenko saw that actually taking the pawn on d4 made the white's queen move to h5. h5 closer to the black's king. And we have the dark square bishop of white that's staying in the outpost in the e5 square. That's looking at the g7 pawn. Now, Andrey Esipenko, before, he just didn't care about this bishop here. He did not really capture it with his knight. His knight was here on c6. He did not exchange it. He was probably afraid of a pawn capturing back and having to deal with the passed pawn. He just ignored it and didn't really thought that this bishop here will become a threat in the later stage of round, which now becomes really a strong bishop now. So yeah, after this move here, queen h5, Andrey Esipenko decided, okay, he thought with 4 minutes on his clock, this is kind of dangerous for me, so he captured the knight on e5, takes out the threat in this diagonal here. Rook takes the rook on e5, queen c6 by Esipenko, b takes c4, b takes c4, and we have here the bishop a4 attacks the black queen. The queen goes to c5, and queen g6 by Sindarov. Now look at the pieces of white. These pieces are gathering, helping in attacking the black king here. So black has to really be careful because the white pieces are going after the black king. Here black played bishop a7 since this bishop on b6 is attacked by both the queen and the rook. So bishop a6 and rook e8 by Sindarov, changing rooks, rook capture rook, and queen takes e8 with a check, king h7, queen g6 check, king g8, and bishop d7 for Sindarov. Now here they're playing under 1 minute on the clock, and it hasn't been 40 moves yet, so no additional clock, no additional time on their clock, so they had to move fast and think fast. So here Esipenko played c3. He was going for this pawn, passed pawn here to promote and win the game, but actually it's actually not really good for him as white is winning here with +7. 0.8 advantage for white. Now Sindarov continued to play queen e8 check first, king goes back to a7, queen goes back to g6 check, king g8, and here we have the final blow. Rook e6, a brilliant move by Sindarov. Andrey Esipenko resigned in the game as he can no longer have he can no longer defend his king here as Rook e8 is coming. So what do you do if you are black? If you are Andrey Esipenko, you can take this rook, right? If you take this rook, then bishop can capture the knight with a check, king h8, and we have queen e8 check. You can block with a queen, but still, queen can just capture. So king h7, and we have bishop takes f5 with a check. Well, you can block with a pawn, g6, but then white can just capture it with a queen with a check, king h8, and it's still checkmate. So whatever black does here, it's still over for him. There's no other defense. Well, there's also one you can block with a queen, but it's just sacrificing the queen. You take the rook, queen takes with a check, king h7, and queen f7 here, trying to capture the pawn. And this pawn can never go to c2. If you go to c2, then white can just capture the pawn on f5 with a check. If you don't capture, if you go here, you get mated, so you capture with a knight. Queen captures with a check. King moves back, and queen captured a pawn, and you're still losing. You're playing with just 3 pawns and a bishop versus 4 pawns and a queen. So yeah, that was it. For so long, the game was fairly even until Sindarov saw an opportunity to take advantage of the fact that he had a strong bishop in the center. And for Esipenko, I think it was only in the later moment of the game where he finally saw how much of a threat the bishop was in the center outpost. He even sacrificed his rook for white's strong bishop, but it was never enough. It was already too late as white's all other pieces gathered towards the black king. Yeah, so that was it. If you're still watching until now, thank you for watching and have fun playing chess.